For Quick Tip Tuesday this week, we're talking about off-season training and specifically the bench press. Obviously, as we get into the season and guys are increasing throwing load and becoming more and more overhead dominant with their throwing program and with their game schedule, we tend to go a little bit more away from like a heavy bench press where we're really trying to build strength and or hypertrophy through the chest and like we do in the off-season. So a few things of why we would do that. One would be horizontal shoulder abduction. So if we look at as far as the pitcher goes, being able to bring the shoulder blade back towards the spine. Scap retraction is another way to look at it, is related to throwing velocity. So guys that can have better shoulder horizontal abduction in their throwing motion tend to throw a little bit harder. The pec has also been, in research studies, shown to be a major contributor in accelerating the arm into internal rotation. So if we have a stronger muscle there, we should be able to then also accelerate the arm better. Now, does the body work in isolation? Absolutely not. Are there 1,000 other factors that go into throwing baseball hard? Absolutely. But we want to make sure that we are trying to isolate a few potential areas where we may increase velocity, and that's when we see a lot with high school arms specifically, where their chest is just completely undeveloped, their upper body strength overall is undeveloped. Bench press is a great tool to fix that. A few of the issues that we see with bench press overall, not getting down to the chest. So if we're looking at it, I'm standing up, I'm doing a bench press, they're not taking the bar or dumbbell back far enough. A few reasons that this may happen. One is some type of issue with the shoulder, where we're already in some type of protraction or upwardly rotating position with the shoulder blade. So as we come down, we actually tend to rotate this head forward and take ourselves into like a bicep impingement position, as opposed to being able to let the shoulder blades come back and down with the bar or the dumbbell. So getting into this position is definitely not advantageous, and we definitely want to avoid that position. But it shouldn't mean that we run away from bench press. So what do I mean? Okay, if we're in this position, this is an issue we have with it, we need to be doing other things to address that issue and fix that so that we can bench press properly and not just say, oh, benching hurts my shoulder and not do it anymore. If benching hurts your shoulder because of that motion, then you can't do a push-up. You really can't do any type of strenuous pressing exercise. You may be able to do like a landmine or a little bit of overhead press, but usually those are going to have some type of issue with that as well. The other thing is if we're not going down all the way, then we're not getting that horizontal shoulder abduction that we need to get when we throw a pitch. So again, as we throw a pitch, our arm comes up here, our upper body starts rotating forward, this should stay behind, and we're getting into that abductor or scapular retracted position. If we're not going down all the way, then we're not training that range of motion. A big issue that throwers have, and a lot of reasons they get hurt, is these range of motions go untrained because we're scared of injuries in the weight room, and then we expect the pitcher to be able to do that amount, moving at 7,000 meters per second or degrees per second when they throw a baseball. And that just doesn't work out, obviously. Again, back to the idea that tissue capacity is not as great as the man being put on it, and so that's where injury happens. So the main things we want to look at is, again, getting that full range of motion, being able to feel that shoulder blade slide back towards the spine, horizontal shoulder abduction that we can get, and then we want to train in a few different ways and make it a little bit more everyday life than just laying on your back and doing a bench press. So obviously that's great for training towards overall strength, but as you see here, we have the band set up. We use accommodating resistance a lot in the off season as well. Bands or chains, something where we have less weight at the bottom and can explode up. We're working more on speed. This would be like a lighter day where we're really driving the idea more towards the speed strength side of things, so we can work on the fast twitch or co-contraction of the muscle. We also look at doing some type of alternating pattern, so being able to lay on the back and do an alternating bench press. Anything alternating is more like a normal walking pattern, and also we're learning how, just in life, one side usually does one thing while the other does the opposite. So if we're looking at the upper body, you go to throw a baseball, your left arm, I'm right-handed, so your left arm is going to be pulling back and going into retraction as your other arm is going into protraction and internal rotation. And so it's the same idea with bench press. We're alternating. one arm's going up and protracting, the other one's going back and retracting. And we're probably getting a little bit of rotation there that we wouldn't normally get with a two-arm chest press with dumbbells or with the bench press. So last thing, barbell bench press is not the devil. We should be able to safely do it. It's the best way to build someone's chest. You can use dumbbells if that's something you're way more comfortable with. You've been doing it for years, it's working for you, great, stay with it. It's not one or the other. We use both with a lot of our athletes, especially with bands. It's easier to do with the setup on the bench press and use the bar as opposed to using dumbbells. But if dumbbells are really comfortable, you feel really good about it, you're able to execute the form perfectly, and you're having good results with that, stick with that, have no issues with that at all. Back to the main point, off-season, great time to train your chest. It's something that gets the bro and us excited, and we get to go in and get that pumping with the chest and build that up. It's also really an important part of throwing. Make sure you do it properly, make sure you train that full range of motion, make sure your shoulder's moving like we want it to, and make sure it's progressed just like everything else, where we're getting into something that's a little bit faster and we're not just doing 3 sets of 12 throughout the whole off season.